Alien trader panics after being assigned a deadly Earth route, top HFY stories. Zortha had been a trader for over 3 decades, navigating the vastness of the galaxy and dealing with a variety of species. From the calm and calculating Vexari to the violent and unpredictable Croth. His ships were sleek and swift, his cargo valuable, and his reputation spotless. That was until he received an assignment that made his antennae twitch in a way they never had before, an Earth route. As an alien from the peaceful Zorkon system, Zortha had heard the rumors. Earth, the mysterious and volatile world located on the fringes of the galaxy, was infamous. No one dared to trade directly with its inhabitants. They were a primitive species, far behind in technology but with an unmatched capacity for chaos and unpredictability. The stories told of humans' violent history, their capacity for ingenuity, and their uncanny ability to survive the most hostile environments. Zortha had always believed the rumors were just that, rumors. Until now, the Galactic Trading Consortium had given him a direct order: deliver a cargo of precious minerals to Earth. Failure to comply would mean a severe penalty, and Zortha wasn't one to risk the consortium's wrath. His first instinct was to refuse the job outright, but the penalties for such an action were steep, and he had no interest in becoming a fugitive. Instead, he prepared himself for what he anticipated would be a nightmare. He stocked his ship with defensive systems, installed shields designed to withstand the most extreme of environmental hazards, and made sure his life support systems were flawless. Still, the knot in his stomach grew tighter as his ship, the Stellar Voyager, approached Earth. From orbit, the planet appeared serene: blue oceans, white clouds, and vibrant green continents. But Zortha knew better than to be fooled by appearances. His sensors were picking up strange fluctuations in the atmosphere, and the galactic data banks had cautioned him about the human wild card nature. They couldn't be predicted. This was going to be dangerous. As Zortha descended through Earth's thick atmosphere, the turbulence started. His ship shook violently, the sound of metal creaking and groaning under the pressure. Despite his advanced technology, Earth's gravity felt heavier than anything he had experienced in his travels. He gritted his teeth, reminding himself that this was just a matter of reaching the surface. Then, a warning flashed on his screen. A small ship, primitive by all standards, had locked onto his trajectory. Zortha's heart raced. The human ship, though smaller, was heading straight for him, seemingly without any care for his larger, more advanced vessel. Just great, Zortha muttered in his native tongue. He activated his communication systems, trying to reach out to the humans in what he hoped was a calming tone. Unidentified human vessel, he began. This is Zortha of the Zorkon Trading Fleet. I am making an official landing at your planet's coordinates. Please clear the way. The human ship didn't respond. Instead, it continued to approach with reckless abandon. Zortha's thoughts raced. Was this the wild part of humans everyone had warned him about? A crazy, unprovoked attack? He had read about humans' tendency to engage in sudden and unexpected violence, but he hadn't expected to encounter it so soon. The human ship closed the gap, and Zortha's sensors began to warn of an incoming collision. With no time to spare, he activated his emergency thrusters, swerving just enough to avoid a direct hit. The human vessel grazed the side of the Stellar Voyager, sending sparks flying and shaking the ship to its core. Zortha cursed and quickly regained control, his heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. These humans had no sense of caution, no idea of self-preservation. What kind of creatures were these? As he finally made it to the surface, he found himself on a strange, bustling city, something called New York. The noise, the chaos, the crowd of humans moving about with no apparent coordination, it was overwhelming. But what truly shook him was the sense of curiosity in their eyes, their complete lack of fear, and their readiness to face danger head-on. He barely had time to unload his cargo before he was surrounded by a group of humans, each wearing bizarre outfits and wielding strange tools. They approached him with an energy he had never encountered before. One of them, a tall human with short, dark hair and a crooked grin, stepped forward. "Hey, you're that alien trader, right? What's in the boxes?" the human asked. Zortha blinked. These humans were unfazed by his appearance, his 6 arms, his iridescent skin, and the strange aura that hung about him. Instead of fear, they seemed excited. A few began to probe his ship with handheld tools, trying to figure out how it worked. He felt his antennae droop. This was not going according to his plan. The humans were eager, curious, and fearless. But what was worse was that Zortha had a sinking feeling that they were about to drag him into some sort of dangerous human adventure. Wait, Zortha tried to speak, his voice shaking. Please, I need to finish my business here. I don't know if I'm ready for this chaos. But the humans just laughed. Ready for what? The tall human chuckled. It's just a day on Earth. You'll get used to it. As the humans began to surround him, Zortha's panic increased. What had he gotten himself into? The fear that had crept into him from the very first moment of his journey had now consumed him. This planet was everything they'd warned him about: wild, unpredictable, and utterly impossible to predict. For Zortha, it was too late to turn back. His ship was grounded, and the cargo was already unloaded. As he stared into the eager faces of the humans, his mind raced. Perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't a one-time chaotic encounter. Perhaps there was a deeper lesson to be learned about humanity, about their resilience, their unpredictability, and, yes, their capacity for survival in the face of the impossible. Maybe, just maybe, he would survive Earth after all. And maybe, just maybe, he would start to understand the human spirit. Zortha spent the next few days on Earth in a haze of confusion, curiosity, and dread. Every time he tried to leave the city, some new event, some strange group of humans, would pull him back into the chaos. It was as though the very planet itself refused to let him go. At first, he thought the humans were harmless, unpredictable. But harmless. That was until he encountered a human known only as Diana. A woman with wild, untamed hair and an energy that was almost impossible to describe. She didn't have any official title or rank. She wasn't a member of the government. And she certainly wasn't part of any established organization. She was, in her own words, just a survivor. A survivor of what? Zortha didn't know, but he soon found out. One evening, as Zortha was navigating the crowded streets, Diana appeared out of nowhere. She had no warning, no invitation. One moment, Zortha was admiring the strange, towering structures around him. The next, a human woman grabbed his arm and yanked him into an alleyway. "Come with me," Diana said in a voice that brooked no argument. Before he could even react, she dragged him into a hidden underground area beneath the city. Zortha's heart raced. His immediate instincts told him to fight, to escape. But the humans on Earth had already proved themselves more unpredictable than he could comprehend. His advanced technology had failed him here, and the last thing he wanted was to make a scene in the heart of human territory. Once they were deep underground, Diana led him to a group of humans huddled around a glowing fire. Their faces were weathered, hardened by some unseen struggle. They didn't look like any humans Zortha had seen in the bustling streets above. These were survivors, people who had lived through something that seemed far worse than any galactic conflict he had known. Diana introduced him to them, and it wasn't long before Zortha realized that these were humans who had experienced unimaginable hardship. Yet still, they endured. One man, covered in scars, spoke of wars between factions, of human survival against impossible odds. Another, a woman with steely eyes, told stories of fighting back against invaders, human invaders, no less, who had tried to conquer Earth in the past. The real danger, the scarred man explained, is that humans don't give up. No matter what you throw at them, no matter how hard you push them to the edge, they always find a way to come back. They rise from the ashes like nothing else. Zortha felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard the stories, the human factor. They called it. It was the inexplicable drive they had to fight, to survive, to keep going against all odds. But to see it firsthand, in the faces of those who had been through the worst of it, was something else entirely. These weren't the primitive, chaotic humans he had expected. They were resilient, driven, and terrifying in their persistence. Diana, sensing his unease, sat down beside him. "You're scared," she said quietly, "but you should be. Earth isn't a place for the faint of heart. The truth is, we don't just survive here. We thrive in ways that are impossible for most to understand. The universe underestimates us, but that's why we always win in the end. The worst part? We don't even need the best technology or the most advanced ships. All we need is our will to survive, and that's stronger than any weapon." Zortha looked at the faces of the humans around him. They weren't afraid. They were calm. Despite the hardship they had endured, It was as if they had come to accept that life on Earth wasn't about comfort or luxury. It was about sheer willpower and determination to make it through. "Why me?" Zortha asked. "Why bring me here? What do you want from me?" Diana smiled, but it wasn't a smile of kindness. It was a smile of challenge. "We want you to understand," she said. "We want you to see that humans don't just survive. We thrive in the face of what others would call certain death. And you're going to learn that the hard way." Zortha's stomach dropped. He had expected to be just another cargo delivery, a routine stop on a long trade route. But instead, it felt like he had been thrown into the heart of a storm he couldn't escape from. The humans were about to show him something that no one in the galaxy had truly grasped, the terrifying, undeniable force that was human determination. Over the next few days, Zortha became part of their world. He learned how the humans survived not just through brute force, but through sheer adaptability. He watched as they rebuilt after disasters, how they banded together when their systems failed them, and how, no matter how many times they were knocked down, they always managed to rise. Zortha was both terrified and fascinated by them. He began to see that Earth wasn't just a dangerous planet. It was a place where a species had learned to turn every challenge into a stepping stone. The stories of human resilience, once just tales told in hushed whispers among the stars, became real to him. They weren't just surviving the chaos of their world, they were mastering it. One night, as Zortha lay awake in his quarters aboard the stellar Voyager, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had been wrong about Earth. This planet, this species, wasn't something to fear, it was something to respect. The humans' ability to endure, to fight for their survival against the odds, was something none of the other galactic species had yet to understand. For the first time since he had landed, Zortha felt something he hadn't expected, hope, not just for his mission, but for humanity as a whole. If they could survive all of this, perhaps they were more than just a chaotic, primitive species. Perhaps they were the true masters of survival in the galaxy. He couldn't wait to see what came next, but deep down, he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't leaving Earth until he fully understood what made humans truly unstoppable. And that was a lesson no trader, no matter how seasoned, could ever truly prepare for. As days passed, Zortha found himself growing more accustomed to Earth's chaotic rhythms. He had already witnessed the raw spirit of the humans, their capacity to survive, adapt, and endure, but now he wanted to experience it firsthand. Despite his training as a trader, the unpredictable nature of Earth was starting to reveal something deeper. It was more than a planet of raw power. It was a world of profound resilience. Diana, noticing his growing fascination, introduced him to more of the human survivors. There was David, a former soldier who had survived the wars and invasions that had ravaged the planet. Then there was Elena, a scientist who had managed to rebuild vital systems after a global energy collapse. And Jacob, a mechanic who could repair anything, no matter how destroyed it seemed. Zortha spent his time with them, learning from their experiences. The more he observed, the more he saw how each human had mastered a unique skill of survival, and, in turn, how they supported each other. Unlike the cold, calculated deals he was used to in the intergalactic markets, humans relied on each other's strengths to overcome weaknesses. Trust, Zortha realized, was the most valuable currency here, not goods, not weapons, not even knowledge. One evening, the group gathered at a rundown, but functional, human settlement, a place where technology and nature intertwined in a way that Zortha had never seen before. The city had been built to last, even without most modern tools. Zortha marveled at the ingenuity of the humans who had found ways to keep old machines running and who used primitive methods to grow food in places he thought impossible. "How do you manage to rebuild so quickly?" Zortha asked Elena, watching her work alongside a few other humans as they repaired an energy grid. Elena looked up, wiping her hands on her worn-out clothes. "You can't just depend on technology, you have to adapt. We learned long ago that when everything else fails, it's our minds, our hands, and our will that keep us alive." Zortha thought about her words. It was true, every species in the galaxy had technology that could fix problems, but humans seemed to have a different approach. They didn't rely on gadgets or systems, they relied on themselves. The next day, Zortha was thrown into a situation that would test everything he had learned. The human settlement was under attack. A gang of raiders, scavengers who had been terrorizing the region, had spotted the settlement from a distance and were now preparing to raid it. Zortha, still unsure of his role among the humans, stood with Diana and the others as they prepared for the incoming assault. His first instinct was to flee. He was a traitor, not a soldier, but Diana turned to him with a fierce look in her eyes. "You have something we need," she said. "You're not just here to watch, you're part of this now." Zortha hesitated. "I'm not trained for combat. I don't even know how to fight like you humans." Diana smiled grimly. "You don't need to fight like us, you just need to fight." The raiders were close now. Zortha could hear their engines rumbling in the distance. The settlement was on high alert, everyone working in a tense rhythm to fortify the defenses. Zortha knew that without these humans' ingenuity, they wouldn't stand a chance. But the question remained, could he make a difference? The answer came when the raiders launched their first wave. With little warning, they stormed the settlement, firing crude energy weapons into the air. The humans scrambled into action. But Zortha felt an overwhelming sense of panic rise within him. He had never faced anything like this before. His heart raced, and his instinct screamed for him to retreat back to the safety of his ship. But then he remembered Diana's words. "You're part of this now." Without thinking, Zortha found himself joining the defense. He wasn't armed, but he knew enough about the basics of human ingenuity to see the weaknesses in the raiders' tactics. He moved quickly, setting up barriers, coordinating with the humans, and using his superior intellect to outthink the raiders at every turn. There was a moment, just a fleeting moment, when he saw the fear in the eyes of a group of humans who had been cornered by the raiders. It was the same fear that he had felt when he first arrived on Earth, when everything had been so foreign and overwhelming. But now, something was different. He felt a surge of determination, a sense that he couldn't let these people fall. He made a snap decision, running towards a malfunctioning barricade that was about to collapse. With quick thinking, he used his advanced knowledge of alien technology to repurpose a piece of machinery to reinforce the barricade, holding it steady just long enough for the humans to escape to safety. The raiders were thrown off balance, and for the first time, Zortha felt the tide shift. The battle raged on for hours, but in the end, the raiders were forced to retreat. The settlement had been saved, not just by force, but by a mix of strategy, quick thinking, and pure will. Zortha realized something important that night. Earth's greatest strength wasn't just its people's ability to survive the impossible. It was their ability to come together and make the impossible possible. As the humans celebrated their victory, Zortha stood off to the side, feeling a mixture of awe and exhaustion. Diana walked up to him, a look of approval in her eyes. "You did good, Zortha," she said, clapping him on the back. "You're one of us now. Welcome to Earth." Zortha nodded, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride, and, for the first time, a genuine understanding of what it meant to be human. He hadn't just delivered cargo. He hadn't just witnessed survival. He had become part of the story, and that, he realized, was more than he could have ever hoped for. He wasn't just on Earth to trade anymore. He was here to learn, and what he had learned so far was that the human spirit wasn't just a rumor. It was real, and it was a force to be reckoned with. As Zortha looked up at the stars, he knew that his journey had just begun, and that he would never see the galaxy the same way again. In the weeks that followed, Zortha became a part of the tight-knit human community, an outsider who had come to understand and respect the very heart of Earth. His ship, the Stellar Voyager, had been temporarily docked for repairs after the battle with the raiders, and in that time, Zortha found himself becoming more and more integrated into the life of the settlement. Every day brought new challenges, but each one helped him uncover more layers of the planet's complex and unpredictable nature. Humans, despite their vulnerabilities, had a way of turning adversity into triumph. From the way they solved problems with whatever they had at hand, to the way they cared for one another even in the toughest circumstances, Zortha began to see that their survival was never about waiting for a miracle. It was about forging their own path, no matter how uncertain the road ahead. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the landscape, Zortha found himself once again with Diana. She had become something of a mentor to him, teaching him not only about Earth's inhabitants but also about their unshakable spirit. It was clear to him now that, more than anything, humanity's greatest strength lay in their sheer ability to endure, adapt, and rebuild. "Tell me, Zortha," Diana said, sitting beside him on the edge of a small platform overlooking the settlement. What's the one thing you never expected to learn about humans? Zortha thought for a long moment, the answer slowly forming in his mind. I didn't expect how relentless you all are. You don't just survive, you keep moving forward. You never stop. It's as if you always find a way to make things work, no matter how impossible the odds seem. Diana smiled softly, a look of understanding in her eyes. That's the essence of humanity. We don't wait for permission to live, we make our own path. And when someone tells us we can't, we show them just how wrong they are. Zortha chuckled quietly, realizing that he had come to understand something crucial. Before arriving on Earth, he had thought of humans as a species easily overlooked by the rest of the galaxy, primitive, chaotic, and bound to their planet's limitations. Now, he saw them as something much more. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also a force of nature. Not unlike the storms that raged on their world, they were powerful because they adapted, they persisted, and above all, they refused to give up. A new thought occurred to him, one that both terrified and excited him. If Earth had this kind of resilience, this kind of relentless drive, what would it mean if humans were ever to fully join the larger galactic community? Would they become a new power, one that could rival even the most established and advanced civilizations in the universe? Before Zortha could voice this thought, a loud alarm suddenly blared through the settlement, cutting through the tranquil evening air. The humans around him immediately sprang into action. Moving with practiced efficiency, Zortha stood up, his heart pounding, as he turned to Diana. What's happening? He asked. Diana's expression hardened. It's a new threat, something we weren't expecting. A fleet of ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're heading this way, and they're not friendly. Zortha's blood ran cold. He had seen skirmishes, raids, and battles in his travels across the galaxy. But this was different. The humans had never faced an organized threat on the scale of a fleet, and Zortha couldn't help but wonder if this was the challenge they had been waiting for. Without wasting time, Diana pulled Zortha along, guiding him toward the command center of the settlement. Humans weren't soldiers by nature, but they had learned to fight in many forms, and their resilience wasn't confined to just surviving the elements or raiders. They fought to protect their homes, their families, and their future. As they arrived at the center, Zortha saw a group of humans already at work. They had gathered around a massive holographic map of the area, analyzing the approaching fleet with the same focus he had seen when they were preparing for the raiders. This isn't good, David, the former soldier, said, his voice grim. They're well armed and well coordinated. This isn't just a random attack. Elena, the scientist, tapped rapidly on a console, bringing up detailed information on the fleet. They're not just here to raid, she said, her voice low but steady. This is a full-scale assault. If they land, they'll wipe us out in hours. Zortha felt his throat tighten. He knew what this meant. A fleet like that could easily overwhelm Earth's defenses, even with the humans' ingenuity. But then he remembered something Diana had said to him. We don't wait for permission to live. His heart skipped a beat. He had seen it in their eyes after the raider attack. They didn't fear death. They embraced the fight, the challenge, and they never backed down. I've seen what you can do, Zortha said, turning to Diana. Then to the others. You have the strength to beat them. You can win this. Diana's eyes met his, a fire igniting within them. We're not just going to survive this. We're going to make them regret ever setting foot on Earth. Zortha had never seen humans so unified, so resolute. They weren't panicking. They weren't running for cover. They were planning, preparing, and ready to take on the challenge headfirst. As the first ships of the enemy fleet came into view above the horizon, the humans didn't hesitate. They sprang into action, activating hidden defenses that Zortha had never known about. Earthquakes triggered traps, electromagnetic fields that would interfere with the enemy ship's navigation, and guerrilla tactics designed to use the terrain to their advantage. And so, the battle began. Zortha fought alongside them, contributing his knowledge of alien technology to help them coordinate their defense. It was clear that this wasn't a battle they could win with technology alone. It was about the human will to resist, to stand tall in the face of an impossible challenge. And as the battle raged on, Zortha realized something fundamental. This was what it meant to be human. Not just surviving the storm, but becoming the storm. Earth wasn't just a planet on the fringes of the galaxy. It was a crucible where the human spirit had been forged and tempered, where every test, every obstacle, made them stronger. Zortha knew now, deep down, that no matter how many fleets the galaxy threw at Earth, no matter how many challenges came their way, the humans would rise up and meet them head-on. Because, as Zortha had learned in his time among them, humanity was unstoppable. And Earth was a force to be reckoned with. The battle for Earth was fierce. Zortha had seen battles across the galaxy, distant star systems torn apart, planets consumed by war, and entire civilizations wiped out by overwhelming force. But nothing had prepared him for the tenacity of the humans. The enemy fleet, though formidable, had underestimated the true strength of Earth's inhabitants. The humans, though technologically less advanced than the attackers, had something far more dangerous on their side, their will to protect their home. Zortha stood alongside the defenders as the enemy ships began to descend, their massive silhouettes darkening the skies above. He was amazed at the strategic ingenuity of the humans. They had rigged every part of their environment to work to their advantage. The terrain, the buildings, the very ground beneath their feet, it was all a weapon now. One of the enemy ships attempted to land near the settlement, its landing gear making a deafening screech as it touched down. The moment it did, a series of hidden turrets and electromagnetic disruptors activated, sending waves of interference through the ship's systems. The ship faltered, losing control of its descent, and crashed into the ground with a violent explosion. Cheers erupted from the human defenders, but there was no time to celebrate. The remaining ships continued to rain down fire, and the humans fought back with everything they had. Zortha found himself working alongside them, using his advanced knowledge of alien tech to modify Earth's energy systems, allowing them to better disrupt the incoming fleet. "You've been a huge help," David said as they ducked behind cover. "We wouldn't be able to do this without your expertise." Zortha nodded but could see the weight of exhaustion in the eyes of the humans around him. They had been fighting non-stop for hours, and they were far from finished. Yet, despite the constant barrage, the humans were unrelenting. They fought not just for their own survival, but for each other, for every person they loved, for their families, for their future. Zortha began to realize that what kept them going was not the promise of victory, but the conviction that they could never let their home fall. Another ship descended, this time larger than the others, its weapon systems fully engaged and ready to strike. It was a massive, heavily armored vessel, and Zortha knew it would take more than just human ingenuity to bring it down. "Elena," Zortha said, running to the scientist, who was coordinating the defense efforts, "do you have a plan to disable that ship?" Elena's eyes flickered with the light of determination. "It's shielded, but I think I can overload its power grid. We just need to get close enough to it." Zortha looked at the vessel, a sinking feeling in his stomach. "It's going to be dangerous. If we get too close, we'll be in the line of fire." "We don't have much of a choice," Elena replied, her voice steady. "If we don't stop it now, the settlement will be destroyed." Zortha understood. He didn't hesitate. "Then I'll help you get close enough. Let's finish this." As the group of humans and Zortha made their way toward the enormous ship, he marveled at the courage the humans displayed. Despite the overwhelming odds, they didn't falter. They charged forward, moving as one cohesive unit, dodging fire and returning it with precision. Zortha was impressed by their combat effectiveness, not because of their skill, but because of their unwavering belief that they could win. When they reached the ship's main power core, Elena worked quickly, setting up a series of advanced electromagnetic disruptors to overload the ship's power grid. Zortha helped by linking their systems, ensuring that everything was aligned. The plan was risky. If they miscalculated, the entire ship might explode, taking them all with it. But Elena was confident, and Zortha trusted her instincts. As the countdown began, Zortha couldn't help but feel a strange sense of unity. He had never thought of himself as part of something bigger than his mission, until now. In that moment, as the final seconds ticked down, he realized that he had truly become one with the humans he had once underestimated. Their struggle was now his own. The charge went off just as the ship fired a final round of energy at the settlement, but it missed, and the core overloaded. The ship's massive engines detonated in a spectacular explosion, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. For a moment, there was silence, absolute stillness. Then, the humans erupted in cheers. The enormous vessel was no more, and Earth had survived another battle. Zortha stood there, looking at the victory around him, and he understood something he had never truly grasped before. It wasn't just the power of technology or strength that had saved Earth, it was the power of the human spirit. Their refusal to accept defeat. The humans didn't fight for victory alone. They fought for each other. They fought because they believed in the importance of their world, their home, and their people. Diana appeared beside him, her face weary but filled with pride. "We did it," she said, her voice a little breathless from the adrenaline. "Earth's still standing." Zortha nodded, feeling a strange mix of awe and satisfaction. "It's incredible. You're all incredible." Diana smiled. "We're not perfect, but we never stop fighting. We never stop trying. And that's what makes us unstoppable." Zortha stood in silence for a moment, watching as the humans celebrated their hard-earned victory. But he knew that the war wasn't over, not just with the attackers, but with what lay ahead. Earth had proved itself in the most extraordinary of ways, but the galaxy would not remain unaware of the power this small planet possessed. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Zortha felt a stirring deep within him. He had come to Earth as a simple trader, ready to complete his task and move on to the next job. But now, after seeing what humanity was capable of, he realized that his journey here was only just beginning. He wasn't just witnessing a species survive, he was witnessing the rise of something much greater, something that the rest of the galaxy would have to reckon with. And Zortha, who had once feared Earth's unpredictability, knew one thing for certain: he was proud to stand beside humanity in their fight. He wasn't just a trader anymore. He was a witness to the most important force in the galaxy, the unstoppable will of Earth. And that force would shape the future of the universe. The days following the battle felt like a strange sort of calm, though it was anything but. The settlement had survived, but the human spirit was forever marked by the conflict. The fleet had been defeated, but the repercussions of the attack rippled across the planet. As Earth's victory was now known throughout the galaxy, the intergalactic community was beginning to take notice. Zortha was walking through the settlement, a sense of wonder and respect lingering within him. Earth had survived its first galactic confrontation, but he knew it would not be the last. There would be other fleets, other powers that sought to exploit or subjugate, and though Earth had proven itself once, Zortha couldn't help but wonder if the humans could continue to defy the odds. Diana met him by the makeshift trading post. She was leaning over a terminal, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Zortha," she said without looking up, "we need to talk." Zortha walked over, intrigued. "What's going on?" She gestured to the terminal. "This is a transmission we intercepted earlier. It's from one of the galactic trade councils. It seems that Earth's victory hasn't gone unnoticed." Her fingers moved rapidly, pulling up a map of known civilizations across the galaxy. They're considering bringing Earth into the fold, but it's not just trade they want. It's resources, technology. They want to exploit Earth. Zortha's chest tightened. He had expected this, but hearing it from Diana made it feel more real. Earth had shown itself to be a formidable force, and the galaxy wasn't going to let that go unnoticed. The thought of galactic powers trying to impose their will on this world, the world he had come to admire so deeply, made him feel uneasy. "So, they want to invade Earth?" he asked. Diana shook her head. "Not exactly. They don't need to invade. They just need to convince the humans to join them willingly, to trade their resources and technologies. And once that happens, the leverage shifts. They'll find ways to make Earth their new economic powerhouse, manipulate the situation to their advantage. They'll demand compliance." Zortha frowned. The scenario felt all too familiar. He had seen it happen countless times in the vast reaches of space. A new, strong civilization emerges, and the more powerful races attempt to neutralize or control them. He had seen thriving worlds reduced to mere tools of larger empires, their culture, freedom, and potential stifled under the weight of galactic politics. "Do the humans know?" Zortha asked. Diana nodded. "We intercepted the transmission, but we still don't know how to respond. If Earth refuses, we risk more attacks like the one we just survived. If we agree, we risk losing everything we've fought for. The humans don't want to be controlled, they want to decide their own future. But we can't ignore the fact that Earth has just become a major target." Zortha stood still for a moment, processing what he had heard. He had joined the humans in their fight, fought by their side, and shared in their victories. But now, The humans were on the cusp of something much larger. Their destiny was about to change forever. The very survival of their world hung in the balance. "I think I can help," Zortha said, his voice quiet but firm. Diana raised an eyebrow. "Help? How?" Zortha exhaled, feeling a strange clarity come over him. "I've spent years in the galactic trade networks. I know how these powers think, how they negotiate, and how they manipulate. I've seen it from the inside. Earth has something they want, but they also have leverage. They don't just want resources, they want Earth's potential. But if we approach this the right way, we can turn the tables." Diana eyed him warily. "Are you saying we can negotiate with them?" Zortha nodded slowly. "Yes. Earth may not have the firepower to compete with the rest of the galaxy, but it has something much more valuable. It has the human spirit, the very thing that no galactic power can understand, let alone control. If we play this right, we can force them into a situation where they need you more than you need them." Diana's eyes narrowed. "You think they'll listen?" Zortha smiled grimly. "They'll listen, but only if they think Earth is more valuable as an independent force. We'll make them believe that joining the galactic fold isn't an option, it's a dangerous proposition. They'll need to respect Earth's autonomy or risk alienating one of the strongest species in the galaxy." The plan wasn't without its risks. Zortha knew that. If they failed, Earth might face more attacks. But he also knew that the human spirit, the one thing the galaxy hadn't yet fully grasped, was an asset greater than any weapon or technological advantage. He had seen it firsthand. Earth was not just a planet, it was a force to be reckoned with. Over the next few days, Zortha and Diana worked together, carefully crafting their response. They built an argument, one that didn't just appeal to logic or force but to something deeper, the message that Earth was more than just a resource to be harvested. It was a civilization that had withstood adversity, and it would not be controlled. On the day they were to transmit their response, Zortha stood with Diana, watching the flickering holographic screen before them. The faces of galactic leaders appeared, their cold, calculating expressions betraying little emotion. "This is Zortha of the Traders Guild," he began, his voice steady. "I represent Earth, not as a mere planet to be exploited, but as a world of immense potential. We are not here to join the galactic fold as one more cog in your machine. We are here to stand as equals, with our own sovereignty. If the galaxy seeks to respect Earth's autonomy, we will trade and share our knowledge. But make no mistake, we will not be controlled. Earth will decide its future." The leaders on the other side of the transmission looked stunned, their silence betraying their disbelief. Zortha could see the tension mounting on their faces. They hadn't expected this kind of defiance, not from a planet they had deemed primitive and vulnerable. Diana stepped forward, her voice strong and unwavering. "We have already faced and survived an invasion. If you think you can bully Earth into submission, you are mistaken. But if you seek to engage with us, to treat us as an equal, then you will find that we are more than capable of contributing to the galaxy's progress, on our terms." The transmission ended, and the silence that followed was deafening. Zortha looked at Diana, a sense of pride swelling within him. "We've just made a statement. Let's see if the galaxy can hear it." Diana smiled, her eyes bright with determination. "We may not have the power of their fleets, but we have something they'll never understand, our resolve." Zortha knew this wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. But now, more than ever, he understood what it meant to be human. Earth's future wasn't decided by the strength of its weapons or the size of its fleets. It was decided by the strength of its people, their courage, their resilience, and their unwavering belief that they could shape their own destiny. And Zortha? He was no longer just a trader. He was a witness to the rise of a new force in the galaxy, one that would change everything. Because Earth had shown that, when it came to the future of the universe, no one could afford to ignore humanity. The galaxy would learn that soon enough.